But that one had telltale signs of a fraud also. That was a guy who bought a house in 1970. So he buys in 1970. For sure, he has no title insurance because title insurance didn't exist in 1970. So if a fraud happens to this older gentleman, he's in big trouble because there's nobody to help him.
Look, I get it. The Toronto real estate market is confusing. Whether you're a new or experienced investor or just looking for a home to raise your family in, join us at Broadview Table Talks as we sit around the table with my friend and talk about the real estate and the ever-changing market in Toronto.
Happy to be here.
Lots of stuff going on in the fraud world, as you see in CBC. I know it's been going on for years, I know.
It was Christmas vacation. I was in Florida, minding my own business, having a nice Christmas vacation with my family. And then all of a sudden I see, because I still follow some of the news, and I see CBC, CTV, all about, someone losing their house. $2.2 million fraud. And they had to, publish it on January 5th when most of us are enjoying the time off with our kids, thinking about a lot of other things, not thinking about, oh my God, I'm going to lose my house, or can I lose my house? Yeah. And then phones started ringing off the hook. Guys like you, realtors, brokers, and clients calling saying, does this really happen? Or is this just a headline? Then there's nothing to worry about. So that's the experience we had at Christmas time. So then flash forward another week, I think it was January 12th or 13th, another one comes out in the news about, the first one was about a family that actually moved out of the country and lost their $2.2 million house. And then the next article was about an older gentleman in his 90s who fraudsters tried to sell his house out from under him as well while he's tenants. It's a nursing.
Oh,
tenants. Yeah. So, back-to-back terrible stories. And, these are real things that are happening out there. And we don't hear about them until they come out in the news. But then yesterday, if you watch CBC and CTV, 30 frauds on the books right now that they're investigating with the same organized crime group.
Because they hired a lawyer for title insurance, hired a lawyer to investigate all this because it's in the media now, right?
Well, it's not really a lawyer that's investigating it. They hired a guy named Brian King, who I actually happened to have lunch with last week, because I have a direct communication because we're a good sized player in the real estate market, and Chicago Title is one of the biggest title insurers in the country. They set up this lunch for us so that we could understand what they're going through, so that we could be more diligent. And they know that we're out there talking to, agents and brokers all the time. We can give them tips on how to protect themselves. Nobody wants this to happen, and nobody certainly wants to end up in the papers. Least of all agents, lawyers, and especially homeowners that, it could happen to them. So that's how this all happened. And the guy that you read about in the paper is lead investigator for some of the title insurers. Like, he's the lead investigator. He's got a private investigation firm. I think he was a detective in a previous life or something like that. He's got direct communication with the fraud squad, and he's a hired gun to investigate the frauds because, I was told it's hundreds of millions of dollars that that the title insurance companies lose because title insurers insure over fraud. And, they're at the end of the day, the clients are very vulnerable, people losing their houses, but title insurance, if you bought your house in the last 20 years, chances are you have title insurance. So the title insurers are going to be on the hook for all these frauds.
Well, first of all, I don't know if we didn't introduce you. You're a real estate lawyer. You've been doing this for decades.
Yep.
I've been using it for 2 decades at least anyway. So it's amazing. I know that every single one of your deals, you don't take it on unless the purchaser has title insurance or buys title insurance.
That's correct.
For that reason.
For the last 20 years, the title insurance has always been optional. When title insurance came into Canada, I was one of the first lawyers out there to adopt it. I met a really nice guy who's the CEO of Stewart Title, and he convinced me that this is something that is great for my clients. And I agreed with him. I investigated it, agreed with him, and then I decided from that day forward, I am not going to close a deal without title insurance. It's some pennies in comparison. If you're buying, let's say, $500,000 house, maybe it's $600 for title insurance. It's relative to the amount you're paying for your property. It's nothing.
It's a one-time fee.
Yeah, it's a one-time.
Yeah. So a lot of people may not know what real title insurance is. They probably do, but in case they don't, it's just a one-time fee, and it protects you for anything to do with title, right?
Yeah, it's not. It protects you for lots of different things.
Right.
Like arrears of taxes from previous owners, things like that, work orders. But in this context, let's just talk about the real protection you need, which is fraud. Because the other things, if somebody's got taxers, it might be $1,000, might be $10,000. It's not going to be $2.2 million. It's only the frauds that will really hurt someone. The other ones, like I'm not belittling a work order or anything, but it's all small potatoes
compared to
the frauds. So,
yeah.
And the frauds, they don't happen a lot. It's not like, it's a fraction of a percent in our marketplace that it happens. But when it does happen, it's a big deal. If we closed, I don't know, 5,000 deals last year, and well, how many deals were there in the city of Toronto last year? There was 80,000 or something like that.
To the two ends, right? So, actually,
it was 125 the year before and about 80 last year.
Okay, so we're hearing about 30 potential frauds right now. Even if it was 100 frauds, it's still not a lot relative to 80,000, 90,000 closings in the city. So it's not a huge number, but to the people that it happens to, it's a huge, huge deal. That's why it's so important to talk about it and to figure out a game plan so that we can lessen the risk for everybody out there. And that's why we had the lunch. There was me and a bunch of other lawyers and lead investigator and the top dogs at Chicago Title all brainstorming on what we can do. And it's not just what we can do as lawyers, what we can do in educating realtors and their agents, and also talking to all the other government agencies. Like we're regulated by the Law Society, and the mortgage brokers have different regulation. You guys,
RICO on our side,
guys have RICO, and you're doing FinTrack.
But there's still cases that fall through the.
Of course,
right? Because it's at the heart of it, it's title fraud. Identity theft and mortgage fraud, right? So if you're going in there and coming with fake ID and you don't know any different, I don't know any different. It looks like the guy, ID looks good. That's an issue, right? So there's ways to check it for sure.
Yeah, the fraud's happening to you. It's happening to us. It's happening to the mortgage broker. It's happening to everybody.
Right.
With that same fake ID.
Right.
So we need to check and balance to figure out what do we do. In my mind, in the perfect world, it would be, the title insurers are paying so much money right now because they're paying out money, like hundreds of millions of dollars. How much money would it actually cost to create a better system? But the only way, like title insurers would pay for the creation of that better system, but it needs the levels of government to buy into it.
Of course.
So imagine this. Imagine, somebody wants to list their house, and the first thing you say to them is, here's a link to a portal. You have to go onto this link and answer the questions and upload the information that you need. Similar to what you do when you go onto CRA. If you want to go into My Business on CRA or something, you can link in through your banking information. So what if there was a portal that everybody that wants to buy or sell a property in Ontario clicks onto that portal and they get verified, and that verification is, usable for the lawyers, the agents, the mortgage brokers. Once you're verified, you're verified. And it would go through lots of questions. It's not, you don't have to do it. There would be a system that would do it. It's kind of like authentication when you go to get a passport.
Right.
You have to fill out an application and you have to put references, and passport office calls you references, and they make sure, they check up with, the whatever Vital Statistics Bureau or whoever's issuing the original birth certificates or whatever ID you're using. There's checks and balances in getting a passport. And I'm not saying there aren't fraudulent passports out there. There are. And there's fraudulent birth certificates. And you could be given a real birth certificate, but it could be fraudulent. Even though it's a genuine birth certificate issued by Producers of Ontario.
Yeah.
But it could be fraudulent.
It could be fraud.
So, because there are people on the inside at government offices, at banks, at wherever that help the fraudsters out. So we need to, I think, in the perfect world, we would create a better system so we don't have to be having these discussions. A system, so if there's 30 frauds that are being investigated now, it might reduce the number to, 0.1 or, a way, way less number than what we're seeing right now. Because right now the frauds aren't rampant, but it is certainly front and center. 30 is a lot, I think.
A lot of money.
And a lot of money.
So I understand from this process is that now you can put the ID in, a driver's license, at least only in Ontario, and then look up the details and verify it on their website.
Yeah, you can.
That's only a driver's license in Ontario.
Correct.
Guess what? I don't drive. I don't have a license or have that, right? Yeah. Which is going to happen. You're going to push them in that direction.
Yeah, there are companies. There's one called Treefort, which has designed a system similar to what I'm talking about, where it will vet ID, but it's an independent private company that's doing this, and they do a better job than you do or that I can do, and we use it quite often when we're concerned, but it's still not a perfect system.
Okay.
I'm talking about creating close to perfect system where it's got government buy-in and the money to build it, and
all the different levels of government have to talk to each other with ID then at the end of the day, and then you got to worry about security with somebody on the inside stealing that database and leaks and all that kind of crap always. So all right, sorry.
So but for today we can talk about the frauds and what happens, because when you read those newspaper articles, you hear about the fraud, but then you don't know what happens to those people that lost
Next,
$2.2 million house,
or the buyer that was counting on
or the buyer that moved in
or sold their place, has nowhere to go now.
Exactly. So, let's start with the buyer.
Sure.
Or no, let's start with the homeowners that lost $2.2 million. So, in this case, $2.2 million. And what happened was, fraudsters, they're very sophisticated. They're not stupid. The guys, and you see the pictures in the papers, those aren't the fraudsters. They're just one little part of the fraud. The fraudsters, they're actors.
Yes.
The fraudsters could be in any country, anywhere around the world. And when you hear about, the investigators or the fraud squad saying that they think there's 30 going on with the same group, it's a huge organization. It's not just, one person that keeps doing it. It's a lot of people, and it takes a lot of time and effort. So often with a title fraud, it might be somebody that finds out, let's say somebody calls you up and says, Ken, can you list my property? I want to sell it really fast. I'm moving out of the country or whatever. As soon as they say, I want to sell it really fast, that should get your radar up. Who wants to sell their property so fast as to not get top dollar for their property?
There's the situations where it is valid, though, right?
Yep.
There are situations.
In this case, it's a $2.2 million property, and the fraudsters went door to door looking for the agent that is asking the least number of questions. They didn't take the first agent they went to. They're looking for somebody. Maybe it's a newer agent. Maybe it's an agent that doesn't do much business, and all of a sudden they're thinking, "Wow, I can get a commission on $2.2 million."
Sure.
You want this sold fast? Yeah, I'll list it tomorrow. We'll do whatever it takes to get it done fast and out, because that's agents.
Sorry, unbelievable.
Yeah,
absolutely.
That could happen. Yeah.
So they might go door to door looking for that right agent to list the property, and the agent may not have the experience to ask the right questions. So in the $2.2 million one, they might have they look for a house that, in this case, it was one that was empty. They're looking for somebody that's renting the house, and then they might call you up. Someone might call you up and say, you might have a house that's listed for rent, and they call you up and they say, hey Ken, I see you've got a listing for this house for rent on Simpson Avenue, and it could be a legitimate agent that you even know. I was called by a client that's looking for a house and is interested in that house, but my client's Ukrainian and just wants to know, are the homeowners Russian? And you say, no, the homeowners aren't Russian. They're super nice people. And he says, oh, do they live here? And you say, no, they live overseas. We manage the house for them, or we help them manage the house. So right away, your focus is on, are they Russian? Because the fraudsters have diverted you to thinking, oh, we better not put Ukrainians with Russians in a rental situation. But really, the question they're asking is, do they live here?
Right. Are they offsite?
They're diverting you to a simple question: are they here? And then, but your answer is like, no, they're out of the country. Fraudsters like, ding,
perfect.
That's perfect. And then they say, and then they may call you back and say, you know what, Fred, Ken, they said they're not interested in that property. And then the next day you get a call from some other agent saying, we've got tenants that are interested in that property. It's the same fraudsters, but just somebody else that went to another agent because they've just vetted you to know that property, the homeowners are out of the country.
Sure.
That was their whole agenda. So that's how the frauds start. And then, in the process of renting that property, they're gathering information on the people. They're going to, wherever they can to get statistics on it. So they might be using fraudulent information to get tax information, creating enough information, stealing mail, doing whatever they can to create fake ID of those people. And then when they might rent the property, and they might stay in the property and rent it for a couple months while they're generating that fake ID.
Sure.
And then next thing you know, the property's listed for sale, and they knock on one of your other friends' doors, and they say, I want to list the property, and you say, fine, and they list it. And in this case, $2.2 million, the first offer that came in was a 1.7, and they said, great, we'll take it. Fast closing, we'll take 1.7. So the house is sold for 1.7, and the homeowners have now lost $2.2 million.
Well, they have no idea yet. It hasn't closed yet.
No. Well, in this case, the $2.2 million did close.
They sold. No. What I mean is at the point you're talking about 1.7, they got the deal. Great. It hasn't closed yet.
No, it hasn't closed.
Just a few more checks and balances.
Yeah, the fraudsters go to a law firm, and might be the realtor says, these lawyers are great. And
Korman and Company is great.
Yeah, no, but if it was you calling me up and saying, I want you to take care of these wonderful clients for me, I would think that you've already vetted these people. They're wonderful clients. They might be friends of yours. I would only think the best of these people because it's coming from you.
Sure.
Because you're a trusted professional that we've worked with for 20 years.
Right.
So that's how you and I can get sucked into one of these things.
Right.
Unbeknownst to us. And, that's how it happens. So it's, we don't want that to happen. So then we start our process as lawyers, and we're checking and balancing also. So we Google the house, we see what it is, we Google the people, we often use LinkedIn, we do whatever we can to vet people because we don't want the fraud to happen to us. And LinkedIn is actually a really good thing to use because, a fraudster creates a fake LinkedIn posting. Yeah, because it'll say Vice President of Development of, because it's usually a $2.2 million house, a big house, VP of Development of some company you've never heard of. And then you see three followers, no connections, no postings, like,
Yeah.
But if you don't check, you won't know. So, because frauds happen, you get in the habit of checking people out. And it's not because you're trying to, be sneaky and spy on them. It's you just want to protect your business or your industry. And we do it all the time.
Of course.
So, in this context, so now the deal's closed. As lawyers, we accept the fact that we think we're getting proper ID. We think these people are legitimate. We meet with them and sign them up, and we've transacted the deal. We've sent the deed to the people that are buying it, and the people that are selling have given us a void check or their bank information or wire information, and we always have our radar up if it's not like one of the big banks. If they say, I want you to wire the funds overseas, it's no. We'll only put it
at that point, it's kind of too late though, right? Because this is like when it's about to close or after it's closed, where do I send the money to?
Right.
Right?
But we're looking to send it to one of the big banks because the big banks have vetted those people as well.
But what I'm trying to say is that at that point when you're asking that question, it's very close to the closing, or if not already passed, and you already have the money in your trust account. Now you got to need to send it somewhere else, right?
No. We're just in our normal practice. We're asking where do you want the money to go?
And as part of the onboarding.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're always on, or it could be any time right up to closing.
Sure.
They would tell us where they want the money to go.
Sure.
But if they tell us they want it to be converted into Bitcoin, we're that right away that would get our radar up.
Sure, of course.
Yeah, we only want to send it to one of the big banks, because we know that the big banks do a very careful job at vetting people also, but they're not immune to the frauds also.
I was about to say, because that just happened, right? The third case that just got announced, I think it was last week. The first two didn't have a mortgage, if I'm not mistaken.
No, the first one, the $2.2 million, they did have a mortgage. I think it was like $200,000 or $300,000.
Still, it had a mortgage.
It had a mortgage. But so when we search title, or when we get a requisition from the lawyers for the buyers, they tell us what is on title, and normal courses we pay off that mortgage. So we would have sent a letter to the bank saying, our clients are selling this property, and send us a mortgage discharge statement. So in this case, they sent us a mortgage discharge statement, and the mortgage was paid off by whoever. I don't know who it was that actually closed the deal.
But wouldn't you need the account numbers and all that stuff? Like, it doesn't show up on title, the account numbers on the charge.
It doesn't show up.
So that's like another red flag that you could see.
Yep.
Right, as a lawyer.
Yeah.
So once your radar goes on, who do you report to? FinTrack? First of all, you do a little more investigation.
No, the police. If we think there's a real fraud going on, or if the radar is up, we might call Brian King, because he does this all the time, and he does it for many of the title insurers, and get guidance from him, and because he's got a direct channel to the fraud squad that is dealing with mortgage and title fraud. So it would I would say first call would probably go to him, second call would go and he would probably direct us to who will take the call at the police, and that's how we would deal with it. Fortunately, we haven't had to have that happen in our office.
Right.
We've caught many frauds, but we never that have gone far enough where the police were involved.
And how much of this is like a lot of people ask this question as well too? How much of this is lawyers on the inside? Like I'm not trying to talk bad about any professional because that's their license on the line.
Yeah.
Like that one with that Young and Finch where that lady walks away with $11 million or whatever for condo deposits and all that. How much of that is somebody, a lawyer that actually knows what they're doing and is helping with this?
I don't know how much of it is, but
Yeah.
with any profession, there are bad eggs in every profession.
Sure.
So, it remains to be seen. Like, as the investigations go further and further, they might find, there could be lawyers that were, that were part of the fraud, or there could be lawyers that were just willfully blind to what was going on with their clients.
But you have to
Those
assume
are-
that it's not going to happen though, right? Because you go to school for what, 8 years or whatever it is, 15 years or whatever it takes to get your license away. Throw it all away just for a couple $1 million, right?
Oh.
Like it doesn't.
We get these publications from the Law Society, the disciplinary publications, and there are lawyers that do bad things for stupid reasons, and I think is it worth it for the number of dollars? And I wouldn't do it for any number of dollars.
That's
I
right.
wouldn't be involved in anything like that, and neither would anybody that I work with. And most 99% of the lawyers out there are the same way. But you don't know the circumstances. It's usually some bad circumstance that a lawyer.
Right.
Right.
It could be drug addiction. It could be gambling addiction. It could be anything that, or being friends with the wrong people.
That's true.
Just mafia or mob or whatever. I mean, you never know what it is behind the scenes. But when you read the stories, as because all the lawyers are sent out all the disciplinary stories, and you read them, and they're heartbreaking. Someone had a great practice for 20 years, and then all of a sudden, something bad happened in their lives, and they became an alcoholic or a drug addict or whatever, and then that was a slippery slope, and it led to bad things. It happens in every industry, and I don't know if, it remains to be seen if they were part of a lot of these frauds. Who knows? Like maybe if there's 30 of them, the police might find that there's a common link to a law firm or to a mortgage broker or to realtors, or that remains to be seen.
Tenant or whatever. Yeah.
Whatever. But when if it gets to that size, chances are that there are players in here that are, maybe they are bad players.
Oh, so that's the case of the seller. What happens to the buyer when they're showing up with a moving truck? They sold their house.
Okay, so in this case, the 2.2, we'll talk about the $2.2 million. The $2.2 million one, the buyers, got title to their home, moved in, and actually they made it a whole bunch of renovations to their house, made it completely different than it used to.
Oh Lord, their home. Yeah.
Their home.
Yeah.
So now you got a completely renovated house that looks nothing like what the original owners had.
Right.
So this story actually had a happy ending because the original owners didn't want the house back. They're overseas. They were just renting the house as an investment. They were happy to get money for that house.
Payout. Right.
Right. So as long as they got $2.2 million minus that mortgage that was paid out, let's say the mortgage was $300,000, as long as they got 1.9, they were happy. So that was good because the homeowners that bought the house from the fraudsters, they loved the house. They renovated the house. They want to stay there forever. So the deal that was struck between the title insurers was that the people that moved into that house can stay in that house.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
So it had a happy end.
That's awesome.
Well, people that lose the insurance
Title insurance is the one.
Yeah.
Right.
This year.
But that's
It
the
was-
best case scenario, and that's not
Exactly.
like because unless the seller was in on it, but
But it took the title insurers to discuss it with each other, and including that investigator, because you got Chicago Title was for the original owner, First Canadian Title was for the people that bought the house, and the people that work on the adjusters for both those title insurance companies have to come together and figure out a solution, rather than have one person sue another person and try to get the land titles office to revert the title back to the original person, and then that person has to sue their title insurance company to collect money. It's like, you know what it's like. It's like, when you have a car accident, you want You don't want to have to deal with anything. You don't want to get served papers. You just want your insurance company to deal with the other insurance company and have the problem go away.
Right.
That's what happened in the $2.2 million case. So the two insurance companies had to write checks and, pay the original owner out and pay the legal fees. And
what a mess. Yeah. But
Yeah.
I'm glad it worked out.
that's
good.
That's how it worked.
That's the best case scenario of a fraud case.
Best case for the two people that were defrauded, the homeowners.
Yeah.
Terrible situation for the title insurance company,
Of course.
but that's the business that they're in.
Right.
So, there's a small not so happy ending to this case.
Okay.
That small not so happy ending is the amount of insurance that the original purchasers had.
Oh.
So their loss was, let's say, $1.9 million because they lost the 2.2 minus the mortgage payout.
Sure.
Because that mortgage that they had was actually paid out. So $1.9 million, they bought the house for, let's say, $700,000 12 years ago. Their title insurance policy, 12 years ago, you could only get it, when you buy a title insurance policy, you get the value of the house times 2 is the maximum payout.
It's still the case now?
We'll get to that.
Okay.
We'll get to that.
Okay.
But at the time, that was the maximum amount of insurance you could buy. So their coverage is $1.4 million. Their loss is $1.9 million. Difference is $500,000 that they weren't insured for. They were underinsured. And so in that happy ending, they lost $500,000 because they had too little insurance. So their first thing was, well, did my lawyer screw up? Why was I underinsured when I bought my house 12 years ago? And the first thing they did was they pointed their finger at the lawyers because the lawyers are the ones that get the title insurance for the clients.
Sure.
Well, 12 years ago, you could only get 2 times coverage on a house. So, if they bought for $700,000, you could only get $1.4 million of coverage. And the coverage lasts for the lifetime. As long as they own that house, they're covered for up to $1.4 million. Who thought 12 years ago we were going to have frauds like this? And who thought the value of the house was going to go from $700,000 to $2.2 within 12 years?
Sure.
Nobody did.
Okay.
So that's what the title insurers offered. So Chicago Title, which is one of the big ones that we use, came out with a program where, there's nothing that could fix that underinsured situation for these people. So, you can't point it at the lawyers because there was nothing that the lawyers had. We couldn't buy them more insurance back then. But now Chicago Title has a program where if you pay a 10% extra premium on your title insurance, you can have market value coverage for as long as you own the property.
At the time of the purchase of the...
At the time of the purchase.
You can't top up somewhere in between. 10 years later, you can't top up, can you?
We'll get to that point.
Okay.
But right now, So what we changed in our practice when Chicago Title came out with this, right now, what we do is, by default, we pay that extra 10% and we get our clients coverage that, so they never have to worry about value of the property. They'll always be covered.
This is as of January 5th, Mitch, or is this before?
Well, he's had it for a while. I have no... Okay,
Yeah.
So the premiums have gone up for a little bit, but you also get a warranty too.
So, the warranty is something else that's different from everything else. But I think, if your title insurance premium is $1,000, I don't think you'll mind paying $1,100 knowing you've got that coverage for, that increases with inflation. Stewart Title changed their policies and they automatically give you, without paying another premium, they'll give you 4 times coverage of your property. So if you buy for $1 million, they'll cover you for $4 million. But if you own that property for 20 years, that might not be enough. You've seen what a real estate market has happened. So it's up to, we use both title insurance companies, but it's up to clients to decide what they want. But by default, with houses, we're generally using Chicago Title because that other warranty program that we've got. Condos, we've been using Stewart Title. Both are excellent title insurance companies. And we try to find the best solution for all of our clients in choosing one or over the other. But it's, we want to get the most coverage we can. And we try to, we quote our clients based on paying the full amount, like that extra 10%. And if a client says, I don't want it, that's their choice. And then we just won't get it for them. But at least we had that discussion. And they could choose whether they opt in or opt out. So that's what we're doing right now so that we have a happy ending for everybody. So the other insurance program that you're talking about was it's home insurance. So when the pandemic hit, we realized that clients couldn't go in and view the houses the way they used to view them because you couldn't get home inspectors to go in. And it's really like on a house, you got to do an inspection. Condo is not quite as important.
Sure.
Because the building is managed by professional managers.
Right.
Common elements. But in a house, you got to know what you're getting into.
Of course.
So when that happened, we went out to Chicago Title had a relationship with Encompass Home Warranty, which is a home warranty program where you can get a warranty for your house that you're buying. So we went to Chicago and we went to Encompass Home Warranty. We said we want to give a 1-year warranty to every client that buys a house from us during the pandemic. We'll pay for it. It's not the clients have to pay for it. We will pay the whole thing because it was inexpensive. It was a few $100s to get a warranty for a year.
It's such a nice value add though, because not any other law firm does that I know of.
No, there isn't any in Ontario.
Covering structural, plumbing, electrical, heating, that kind of stuff, right? Everything for a year.
No, it's not structural.
Not structural.
No, it is heating.
Okay.
It's heating and air conditioning systems, plumbing systems, electrical systems, hot water tank. Those things are covered for a year. And the reason we chose a year is because I think in a year you go through 4 seasons. If there is a problem, you're going to know within the year. And to get a licensed electrician or plumber or whatever to come out and diagnose something, you pay a $50 deductible.
Sure.
And they'll pay up to $10,000 of repairs if they find something needs to be repaired. So I thought it was a great product, and that's why we implemented it in our office. We're going to do this as long as this pandemic lasts.
So I think all the real estate agents should know about this because it's a huge benefit when you're telling people, I'm going to sell you this thing, work with our lawyer and they'll give you a free warranty or whatever.
Of course.
That's awesome.
So we did it. And we're like I said, we're paying for this. And I thought, okay, this will be how long is this pandemic going to last? Maybe 6 months. We'll suck it up and we'll pay it for 6 months. Well, we started this in April 2020, and we're still running with it because the clients have loved it. I mean, there's been many instances where people have gone in, and they bought in March, and then in the middle of August, their air conditioning system breaks down, and they've had a $3,000-$4,000 repair.
Oh crap!
Missed an opportunity.
It happens.
They haven't to me yet. It's September. I should have made the claim. I just paid out of pocket for a new meeting.
Yep. You got to remember. Yeah. If you pay out of pocket, that's not a good thing. You have to make the call.
$10,000.
Damn it. You have to make the call. And if they don't have somebody.
It's too late now.
No, but if they don't have somebody to come out immediately, they'll say to you, go get, anybody you want and then send us the bill, which is also really, really nice. So we've had a lot of clients, especially with air conditioners. We've had broken pipes and drain leaking, things like that.
Yeah, it's horrible.
But with air conditioners, it actually happened to me myself, because before I do anything, I always want to get it and try it out on my own.
Yeah, of course.
So I actually had an air conditioning compressor that blew at my house. It was only 12 years old, but it was on Freon. It was on Freon or whatever gas you can't use anymore.
Yeah.
And they said, well, we can fix it, but it's not advisable because it's an old gas system, but we will pay $4,000. They paid $4,000 to get a new air conditioner for.
That's amazing.
And I did not tell them who I was. I didn't say, oh, I'm sending all these policies to you or anything like that. I just wanted to experience it myself, and our clients have had the same experience. So, but we're digressing. So that's not
Forgot about it.
fraud.
All right.
But on the fraud stuff, we talked about that big fraud, the $2.2 million. Let's talk about the other one that was in the paper. That's the guy who's 95 years old and living in an old folks home. So that's a guy, that fraud happened. They caught it before the house was sold out from under him. But that one had telltale signs of a fraud also. That was a guy who bought a house in 1970. So he buys in 1970. For sure he has no title insurance because title insurance didn't exist in 1970. So if a fraud happens to this older gentleman, he's in big trouble because there's nobody to help him. So, in his case, because he's got no title insurance, there are things that are built into the Land Titles Act which can help get your title back.
Right.
But let's say, for argument's sake, he's defrauded. What did these fraudsters do, or he's getting into a fraud? These fraudsters, 95 years old. It's really hard to find a 95-year-old actor to pretend they're to be the fraud
or the daughter or whatever.
So in this case, the fraudster was actually presented fake ID of being a 55-year-old person, and that would have been something like an astute realtor would have searched title. So the realtor checked title on used Geo Warehouse.
Sure.
And in GeoWarehouse, you can just see that, the name matches.
Sure.
But you don't look, how often do you pull the actual deed
Right.
from GeoWarehouse?
It's $40.
Right. So if a realtor, if you pay the extra $40, you can actually pull the deed. It will have the birth date on it of the person who's saying they want to sell their house. Then you would see that guy's 95 years old. And the guy that's in front of you saying, I want to list my house, is 50 years old. And he's giving you ID with that name, but 50-year-old's ID.
But then again, if you saw it when he bought it in 1970, you'd be like, hey, this guy bought it when he was 0 or whatever,
Exactly.
5 years old.
Exactly.
But it doesn't probably show up too, though. Land titles doesn't show up that. At a certain date, it was land titles versus land registry, right? So we wouldn't see the actual date of when it was purchased, do we?
Yeah.
We do? Okay.
Yeah, when you're searching at GeoWarehouse,
There's a certain time, though, we don't see it.
I remember seeing dates in the
I think
80s where
Impact shows you, but GeoWarehouse doesn't. I don't know. Anyway. Sorry, go on.
If it doesn't and you're concerned, then we could pull a search for you because we have more access to more things. But I'm pretty sure with GeoWarehouse you can see the date of the last transfer
I think 1970
and the name.
last. I think Impact does show the earlier dates. Anyway,
Okay. But
that's a good trick for the
I think it's
process.
an example of confusion already on how far back it goes.
Right.
Amongst two guys who've been in the business for almost 2
I just got to be in the.
Yeah, but seriously, and so the onus on the realtor to try and sort that part out, I can see how they would fail.
Yeah, but it's not. This is not in the normal course of a realtor's business. Realtors do check the names match, but that's it usually.
Yeah. Right.
Maybe now because there's frauds, maybe the realtors will spend that extra $40 and look behind and see what the birth date is of that.
I can't see that happening. But anyway, all right.
Okay, but that's one thing that could have happened.
Okay.
Another interesting thing about this case was that the fraudster signed. I don't know how many documents you get a person to sign when you're listing. There's a couple of myriad of documents.
Yeah.
They signed the listing agreement, they signed a FinTrack thing, they might sign a few other forms for your brokerage.
The offer itself.
So in this case, the fraudster actually signed their name and spelled their name wrong on 2 occasions in the documents that they signed up front with the realtor. The realtor never caught it. Brian King caught it. The investigator caught it when he was reviewing all the documentation. So that was another bad thing. So what would happen if you ask your client some questions about stuff? How long have you lived in the neighborhood? Did your kids go to the school here? And they say, they went to the public school here. What's the name of that school? And they don't know the name of the public school in their neighborhood. That's something that would catch a fraudster off guard. Another great tip that Brian King actually gave me was when you're listing a property, how often do you ever ask them for a copy of their insurance on their house?
Home insurance.
Home insurance.
No. Why would you ask that?
You don't need to as a realtor. You don't need to ask them what their home insurance is.
Of course.
But try it the next time you list a property. Ask your client, can you give me a copy of the home insurance? Because everybody has home insurance and everybody has a renewal. I can't imagine anybody not having home insurance. If they have a mortgage, they 100% have
to have
insurance.
insurance.
Right.
They made it. Right.
So but you do ask your clients, is there a mortgage on the property? If they say yes, then for sure they have home insurance.
Sure.
Even if they say no,
They should have.
I almost guarantee you it will be a fraction, like 1/10,000 of the people out there that don't have basic home insurance.
Sure.
So as you know, home insurance renews every year. And when you renew your home insurance, you get an email saying, home insurance has been renewed, or everything is confirmed, but with an email. Very seldomly, they might send you your policy in the mail, but you still get an email. So you ask your client, can you send me, search the last email you got. Let's say it's TD Insurance, for argument's sake. So you can just search TD Insurance. You'll see there's a confirmation of your insurance. Just flip that to me so I know what coverages you have, so that if any agents call me, I can tell them the types of coverages and
How much it costs?
how much home insurance costs.
Yeah.
You're not asking for this. You're asking for it because you want to catch a fraudster, but it's very plausible that you're asking for home insurance because you just want to have the information so that you can help any prospective buyer with more information because you want to get an offer for the home.
Right.
That will catch a fraudster off guard. Fraudsters do not have home insurance. They don't know who the house is insured with. They're not that sophisticated yet. Maybe if there's fraudsters listening to us on this podcast, they'll know what our next step is.
Yeah.
But I guarantee you, try it the next listing you have.
Well, even tax bills. I mean, I guess you can get a copy of the tax bill
You can get a copy of the tax bill.
pretty easily once you have the customer number and the ARN number. And then I guess if there's rental heater contracts, like your situation.
Yeah.
Remember that? Data Road.
Anyway, that's going on. But yeah, so the rental contracts for sure.
Yeah.
But remember back in the day, we used to do mortgage verification statements.
Mhm. Yep.
I haven't done one of those in, I'm not going to lie, 15 years. But there were forms where you could make a request through your client at the table. You just sign here, I'm just going to verify your mortgage info with your bank. That used to be a thing we did.
Absolutely.
That's a return, yeah.
With Treefort, quite often what they do is they look at the a person's credit bureau, and they can see that they have, Rogers for their television and Bell for their phone and Enbridge or whatever that shows up on their credit bureau, and they'll ask the person on the phone or through their email or through the portal, upload a copy of your bill and of your phone bill or whatever, because they can gather a lot of information from the credit bureau, and that's one of the ways they do a check and balance. Fraudsters have infiltrated credit bureaus too.
Yeah.
So they are on to that, but it's just not all the fraudsters are sophisticated as some. Many get caught because they're not as sophisticated. So you're always looking for that piece of information that catches a fraudster off guard. The home insurance one I thought was brilliant because, if you asked me for my home insurance right now, I could just pick it up on my phone and immediately send it to you. If I said to you, I don't remember who my home insurance is with, or I'm gonna have to check with one of my friends because they set it up with some broker. I don't remember who it is, and I'll get back to you in a week. And in a week, then they send it to you, and then your radar should be up, and then you're gonna vet that very carefully. You're gonna call the insurance company or call somebody you know in insurance and say, I need to know if this is legit, or if they send you a policy and the policy start date was last week. That would get your radar up also.
Sure.
Because the policy start date with insurance should always be relative to when they bought the home. If it was in 1970, that's not going to catch it for the start date. But, if they bought a house 4 years ago and now they're saying they're going to sell that house, chances are that renewal date of the policy would be very close to the date that they bought that house in the first place. Because you buy a 1-year policy, you renew it, or you switch to another insurer, but chances are you're switching around that time frame. You're not going to pay for 2 insurance policies for 6 months or something like that. That's another way to catch the fraudsters.
What are some ways that some homeowners can protect themselves from this kind of fraud? I mean, it's identity theft, you get insurance, so you get all that, but...
Yeah, so one of the ways is make sure first and foremost, make sure you have title insurance. The 95-year-old gentleman, he needed title insurance. And what if I met that individual today, I would say, you know what? Let us get you a quote from one of the title insurers. You can buy title insurance anytime you want. You don't have to buy it at the time you're buying your house. So for any clients you have that are older, that have owned their house for a long time, anything over 20 years, for sure they don't have title insurance. When you hear about that, or if you're talking to your clients and they tell you about their parents who are moving to an old folks home or whatever, it's a great conversation starter with anybody that's a potential client out there. Call my friend Mitch because his firm can get you title insurance, and that's what we do. So we're actually setting up a website and a portal so that people could actually buy title insurance very easily. Upload some information to us, and then we still have to go through our process with the title insurers. Title insurers don't want to get defrauded on people just buying lots of policies.
Right.
We'll have to search their title,
Sure.
And my guess is it's not going to be a really expensive exercise to do this. The policy premiums are very similar to what you pay when you buy a property. So if you went onto Chicago Title's website or Stewart Title's website, there's a button for homeowners. You can click on that button, and then you can generate your own quote based on what you think your property is worth.
Okay.
And,
that's information. Yeah, awesome.
you can't buy the insurance directly from the title insurance.
Right, because you got to go through the searches and all that.
Right, you'd have to buy it through guys like us, through a lawyer, but nonetheless, you can have an idea of what it's going to cost you.
Okay, so that's number one. Number two, what else can you do to protect yourself as a homeowner?
Protect your ID, change your passwords. I know you've heard all this stuff over and over again. You change all your passwords frequently. Bring your mail in every single day. Know when the mail comes. Be aware of that, but don't put yourself in a situation like the fraudsters are looking for elderly people. They're looking for people that aren't living in the home. They're looking for vacant homes. They're looking for rental properties. If you live in your own house and you live a normal life like you and I do, chances of fraudsters targeting us, and you also have a mortgage, because fraudsters don't like big mortgages. So, you may even want to register a big line of credit on your home and not use it, because the fraudsters, when they search your title, they see, if it's a $2 million home and they see you have a $1.7 million line of credit, even though it's not being used, the first thing they see, they don't know whether you're using it or you're not using it, but they certainly see a big registration. That would...
No juice enough. There's no value.
Right. Yeah, they're not looking for that. They're looking for the house with no mortgage.
Right.
Looking for the house that, $2.2 million with a $300,000 mortgage. They're looking for that scenario. And the reason why it was $300,000 is because the people got a mortgage when they bought the house 12 years before for $700,000, got a regular mortgage, and it's been paid down a lot. And so the fraudsters, when they search title, which you can see on GeoWarehouse, you see the date they bought it and you see the mortgage. If it's still that same registration from 13 years ago, purchased house, mortgage is the next thing that's registered, nothing else registered since, chances are those people have a very small mortgage and nothing's left, or next to nothing.
Of course. We use that for negotiation power anyway.
Yeah, and the fraudsters are onto that, so that's what they're looking for.
All right. Neil, do we have any questions on the live chats at all?
We don't have any questions coming up, but Sherry did say that this is a great offer, and that's in regards to the warranty where Ken lost.
Should reminded us. I completely forgot. No.
Okay. If you're watching.
But yes, if you're watching, feel free to drop a question in the comments for Facebook or send it on YouTube also by commenting, and I'll be able to see it. I'll stop them and send them the question.
Awesome. Thanks.
I think the insurance ask is very valid, totally justifiable as well.
Yep.
And it's a pretty easy thing to...
Absolutely. How do people find me? Did you put, are they seeing a byline, call the number on the screen?
Well, we're going to close off. I was going to ask how people reach out to you, but you might as well say it now. How are people going to find you? How does it reach out to you?
Our firm's Korman and Company.
Yeah. And
we're real estate lawyers. We do some wills and estates and stuff like that, but pretty much real estate law. There's 15 lawyers in my office. We have 58 people in the whole firm.
15 now.
And yeah, so we close deals all over the province of Ontario. We're one of the bigger players.
How many a year you do?
Sorry?
Tell them how many
a year?
How many deals a year you do?
I think last year was 6,000 deals.
That's a lot. That's a lot of deals. That's a lot of deals.
About 4%. We're biggest in Toronto. I think about 4% of all the deals in Toronto go through our office.
That's awesome.
We're pretty big in Ottawa. Matter of fact, we were just nominated for top law firm in Ottawa for real estate.
Okay.
By Faces magazine. It's a big publication that has a gala in Ottawa. So we're really happy about that.
Congrats.
Toronto Post magazine, the last 2 years, 6 of our 15 lawyers were named Toronto's top lawyers in real estate by Post magazines this year, which was amazing. It's not... Look, I think everybody that works in my office are amazing, but
I think so too.
we try to go the extra distance. We take what we do really seriously.
Sure.
We're not the cheapest law firm out there. We don't want to be pressured by trying to be, the cheapest. We want to do a great job at a reasonable price for all of our clients, and that's...
I gotta say, you're not the most expensive either.
Because far from it.
Yeah, exactly. So you're very reasonable. You're not the cheapest, but you're pretty down there. You're not expensive.
Yeah.
In other words. Because I've had other clients that had a good relationship with their lawyers. They don't specialize in real estate. They do 1 or 2 or 3 transactions a year, maybe. They do other sorts of law and practice general law. They, of course, charge 4 times the amount, and they don't really do anything. They mess things up. Your firm is different because you have a process, you have a checklist, and you have a whole system and a whole bunch of people. Your law clerks are amazing too, by the way. They're actually probably better than the lawyers, no offense. But no, they're awesome. And then at least you have a process on how to do things because this is all you do. Right? Which is huge. Big difference.
I only want the best working with me. It's not just, they don't have to be, it's not about top marks in law school. It's about street smarts too. Because if you got top marks in law school, that's not training you to catch a fraud.
Sure.
I want people that look at the big picture, that are willing to ask the right questions. I want law clerks to do the same thing. We train our law clerks to do that also. And we pay our law clerks really well because we want great people handling this stuff for all the clients. It's the biggest investment the average person has in their lifetime. You certainly don't want to mess that up. So that's what we do.
Yeah, it's great. Okay, so how do they find you? So Korman and Company, you just Google it, you can find your site, kormanandcompany.com.
Yeah, well, it's actually kormancompany.com is a website.
Yeah.
And everybody in my office, our first name at KormanCompany.com. So if you need to get a hold of me, it's Mitch at KormanCompany.com.
And what if they have questions? Who do they reach out to? If they want to have a new deal to submit to you, who do they reach out to?
Send it to me.
Okay.
And I'll send it to my admin team.
Tell them how it is.
Sorry?
Tell them how to reach you.
Mitch at KormanCompany.com. It's
Or
MANCOMPANY, so it's all one word.
Yeah.
KormanCompany.com.
And copy new deals at KormanCompany.com as well.
Yeah, well, new deals is for the realtors.
Oh.
So actually, if they write to info at KormanCompany.com, which is what it says on our website, they'll get our admin team too.
Awesome. Great. You watching it?
Yeah, can't do with me too much.
Let's do this again.
No, it's too much.
Well, no, actually, I remember that one of our, like a long time ago, maybe 10 years ago, 15 years ago, there was a assignment deal that you helped me out with, and the builder said, no, you got it through. And we're not going to say it on camera how to do it, but you did it.
We do it.
Which is awesome. So I'm really impressed. So, a lot of good things that you know. And there's a lot of things that your clerks and lawyers have actually caught as well, too, just for the complex deals I've given you as well, the commercial deals that were pretty amazing. So
Yep. How much time do we have?
as much as you want.
Do you want to hear about another kind of fraud?
Yeah.
Sure. Another exciting story, one that I actually caught. Well, actually, it happened twice. Two attempts through my office. One I caught, and one Michael Clark, one of my partners, caught. So, agent calls me from Barrie and says, I've been reached out. People reached out to me for a $20 million house that they want to buy. And first thing is, there aren't too many $20 million houses in Barrie. The house is in GTA,
right,
on the lake, and but I'm worried because the purchaser is in California, and he says he wants to buy it because his girlfriend lives in Toronto, and he wants to have this beautiful home for him and his girlfriend because he'll probably be coming up here a lot or living here, whatever. And he's purporting to be some extremely wealthy person, so $20 million purchase is nothing for him. And so I get the call from the realtor, and the realtor was smart enough to say, I don't like this. Why would they call me? I'm a Barrie realtor for Toronto property. And anyway, but the realtor, before it even got to me, the realtor did actually show the house to the girlfriend, and the girlfriend walked around the house with FaceTime video and showing her boyfriend how beautiful the house is, and they love it, and they want to put an offer in. Something doesn't sound right. So they reached out to me, and first thing I did was, well, this guy in California doesn't know how our real estate system works, so put me in contact with the guy in California. So she does, and I get on the phone, first, the email introduction, and I say, I'd like to have a talk with you. I'm the lawyer of choice for this real estate company, and we close the transactions for them. Can we have a call? And so I get on the phone with the guy, and I asked him I said, actually, even before the call, I said, before I have the call, I do need some background information. I'll need 2 pieces of identification. I need a driver's license, and I'll need a passport. And so I started asking for that type of documentation. Then I get on the call, and I started asking him some questions about random things that I just make up but I just want to get answers. I want to hear some answers.
Sure.
And so some of the questions were fine, but then he started being somewhat belligerent, pushing back and saying, like, what do you need to know this for in Ontario? I buy and sell all kinds of houses all over the U.S., and we don't have to go through anything like this, and I don't want to answer these questions. I just want to put my offer in. Can you help me? If not, I'm going to find somebody else. Anyway, so that attitude, got me going, because he knows that I get referred by realtors. So if I piss him off, word gets back to the realtor, I'm not going to get referred anymore. And he's smart enough to know that, and he's using that as leverage. Like, you just, I'm going to use you, but you stop asking me questions. Anyway, so I'm always looking for that question to catch them. In this case, I didn't catch them on a question, but I did catch them on ID. So I did get a copy of the ID, the driver's license. First thing I did was I researched the address on the driver's license. I Googled it. Person that is buying a $20 million home, his address is in foothills outside of LA. It's a $300,000, $400,000 house that he's saying he lives in. That guy is not buying a $20 million home here. Then I went further, and I actually did Google a lot more. I actually found out that he was a professional fraudster.
Oh. Convicted
for many, many frauds.
Oh.
Under that name.
Huh.
That was like,
Tough.
I was so happy with myself that actually I caught this.
Well, where the funds come from? Like, you didn't see it?
There's no funds.
Yeah.
There's no offer even put in yet.
Oh,
We started before it even got started.
yeah.
And so you're wondering, like, where's the fraud going to go? Let's say this guy has no money.
Yeah.
Where's the fraud going to be? Or maybe he's got some money or whatever. So this is how I think this was going to play out. He signs a firm agreement to buy a $20 million home, and it's, let's say he says, my money is tied up in investments. I'm going to have to stagger the deposits. Like $20 million home might be, $500,000 deposit, or so it might be $1 million deposit.
That's right.
Let's say it's $500,000.
Sure.
And he says, look, I can give, upon acceptance, I can certainly give $50,000 or $100,000, but then I'll do another $100,000, 3 weeks later, and then we'll stagger it, and the deal gets signed that way because the homeowners are happy that they're getting the $20 million. They'll take a staggered deposit because the closing's not for 3 months or something like that. They're okay as long as that deposit money comes in. Then he goes to the realtor. So the deal's all signed, and he's got to make that $50,000 deposit. And he says, "Oh my God, I can't believe it. I have this bank account in France, and I've got $7 million in this bank account, and they're telling me it's going to take 30 days to wire it to me, or 15 days, or whatever the case may be. I can't. That $50,000 I can't do. Like, you're my listing agent. You pay the $50,000, and I'll pay you back in 15 days. Here's confirmation I got the money. Here's a copy of my bank statement from the Bank Paris in Paris, France. And now the agent's sucked in. The agent thinks they're going to make, what's 2.5% of $20 million?
I don't think that way. So maybe 2.5% is a lot of money. It's a lot of money, man.
Yeah.
I don't know, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Huge money. The agent's like, okay, I got a line of credit. I'll just pay the $50,000 deposit.
Sure.
And that buys this fraudster some more time. So the fraudster still doesn't have any money because all they've done is they've got an agent to pay part of the deposit. So what's the fraudster doing with the agreement of purchase and sale? Now he's taking an agreement of purchase and sale where he's buying something for $20 million, and it's a legitimate agreement of purchase and sale. He's shopping that agreement of purchase and sale to other people to defraud them. No, he goes to a cocktail party and says, hey, how are you? I haven't seen you in a long time. What's new? I just bought this $20 million property in Toronto, and it's stunning. Like, look at this, and shows him all these pictures and everything, and tells him a great story about this property, and then that's the end of that evening.
Sure.
And the next day he calls up and say, so when I seen you, remember that property I told you about? I'm going to send you a copy of the agreement that I'm buying. He sends him a copy of the agreement. It says, I've got to make another deposit, $100,000 deposit in a week, but I've got $50 million tied up in the sale of my business of whatever, and it's taking a little bit longer than I thought. Can you I haven't got any money because it's all tied up in this deal. Can you lend me $100,000? I'll pay you back $120,000 in 2 weeks. I just need the money for 2 weeks. I'll give you back $20,000 on your $100,000. And he'll do that to 10 other people. They'll shop that agreement, and the people, the person's going to get write a check for $100,000. Not stupid. They're going to call the realtors, and the realtors are going to say, yeah, we know this guy, and he's buying this house, and that first deposit went in $50,000. It was my money that I loaned him, but everything's fine with that agreement.
No, it's so unsophisticated.
No
This is what happens. Minus the part, like, sometimes the agents do get sucked into helping their clients out.
Yeah.
But the fraudsters will shop something paper like that around and pick up 50,000 here, 100,000 there, and then the guy's gone.
Yeah, of course.
You don't know. So the fraud was never, in that fraud, it's never really relating. It's relating to the house only from the perspective of that signing that first agreement.
Tool.
But the fraud is completely separate.
Yeah.
It's just a tool to get money.
That happened to me. I gotta admit, that happened to me. Hattie Lyons, if you're out there, I know who you are.
Honestly, she made me write an agreement. Didn't put any deposit. I didn't put any of my own money, of course, obviously. I'm not stupid.
Yeah.
But she never showed up with a deposit. And that's when you asked, did you ask for proof of funds? I'm like, I should have done that. It was a $2 million home at the time, which is a lot of money back then.
Yeah, but the proof of funds could have been fraudulent also.
Of course.
Like, it's just,
But either way,
or that's where you can't catch.
of course, it didn't happen. And so nothing happened. I was like, what's this scam here? Like, I don't get what she's trying to get. Like, I really don't understand. But that makes sense that they're trying to use it to shop around to scam other people.
Party lines ghosted you after that?
Of course.
Over?
Of course.
Did she ever really exist, Ken?
Who knows? She went to the cops, so. Anyway, whatever. And then I got a fake ID. Oh, you got to see this. I got to show you this one. All right. Anyway, I'll find it. But it was horrible. I just wanted to play with him just to see what it was. But this is the ID he sent me. Like, come on. Like, I don't know. It was horrible.
Yeah.
Tracy Fu or something. How does this make any sense? And then I looked up like this Instagram profile and there was some like Nigeria or something. I'm like, what the heck's going on?
Where's my driver's license?
This is on live video.
No. I'll tell you. It's like, so this is a regular. This is actually legitimate Province of Ontario driver's license.
Sure.
On the back of it, there's like this little fine line back here.
Yeah.
That you can't see what it's on.
Sure.
What it says.
Sure.
It actually says your name on that fine line.
Okay.
It has information on you. But if you had a magnifying glass, you could actually see that.
Sure.
That's one of the safety features.
I don't know that.
So that's one of the safety features in a driver's license.
Line. I can't see the words. I'll take your word for it.
Yeah, so
It's like a diamond.
if you scan it and you enlarge it or you get a magnifying glass, you should be able to see. That's one of the ways you can tell
That's the barcode and
if it's,
yeah.
I had no idea, but it was actually the investigator Brian King. He taught me that one. But who does that? Because what we do is we take the ID from the client and we scan it into our system and it looks real. We don't, like my staff doesn't have a magnifying glass and they're not examining every driver's license that they're handed.
You've also been on Zoom for the past 2.5 years doing transactions. Like, you're not physically seeing it.
Yeah. The best thing for us in the pandemic was enabling us to sign our clients remotely. It was the best thing and it's the worst thing. Best thing because the clients love it and we're more productive because of it. And, it's a better client experience rather than, they're trying to, worry about packing and everything. And they have to drive over to their lawyer's office and sit down with the lawyer and go through all the documents and sign everything. It saves them a lot of time and effort. It's a good client experience. But at the same time, we're taking identification that is scanned and sent to us rather than in the old days, they would show up at our office and hand it to us. But, if they could just as easily hand us something that's fraudulent as faxing or emailing or scanning. But it's easier to fraudulently change things that where it's being sent electronically rather than in person.
Of course.
Because we can't touch that passport to see if it feels right.
Right.
Same thing with the passport you just showed me.
Yeah.
You're not feeling it because you know what a real passport should feel like.
Yeah. The weight of it, the texture of it, like it may be off.
And then I guess there's also fraud in the tenants, landlord and tenant stuff as well too. That happens more frequently. The payout isn't as big, obviously. Yeah. But there's a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah, but if the frauds that we're seeing with title fraud start out as a tenancy situation, the first thing is that they were presenting themselves as tenants to gather information to move into the house and then sell it. So on the tenant side, when you're acting for the landlord, you got to be as vigilant as you can in vetting those tenants.
Absolutely.
Our focus is always on, job letter and, credit score. Credit scores can easily be manipulated with Photoshop.
Not even. At Equifax, there's people that do this stuff.
Okay. So,
Know somebody.
we've got to be more diligent, even in the, with the landlord and tenant situation.
Yeah.
If you're acting for a landlord, you got to be asking the right questions. I have tenants in Leslieville that, when I accept them as tenants, they've been long-term tenants of mine. Long before my fraud radar was up, they've been with me 5-6 years, but they wanted to rent. I asked them, why do you want to rent this house? Because our kid wants to go to this, there's an alternative learning school or something in Leslieville, and we really want to send our kid to this school. That was a good answer for me.
Okay.
And they actually had a kid. I saw the kid.
Okay.
The kid was 3 years old at the time, but you do what you can. And if something doesn't smell right, if you're not getting the answer that you're expecting, that's when you got to make the phone call. So in your context, as if you're a realtor and you're not hearing the right answers, you call the broker. You call, whoever the more experienced people are in the firm, and then you call the lawyer that or you call title insurer that you call whoever can help you vet.
Well, yeah. Luckily, my situation was caught early because she didn't come with a deposit. So that's that. There you go. What else can you do, right? But anyway, This is very informative. Thanks, Mitch. This is awesome. Thanks for coming to talk to us. Love to do it again. And yeah, I don't know. So reach out to Mitch at kormancompany.com. If you have any questions, you're on social media? No, not you, but your team.
Yeah, I'm on social media.
Okay.
You can, if you go at the Leaf Nation, you'll see a great video of my kid high-fiving the Leafs as they walk on the ice. That's the extent of my social.
5 minutes of fame. There you go. 5 minutes of fame. All right. Thanks for joining us. That's awesome.
Thanks for having me.
Add it up.
I get it. The Toronto real estate market is confusing. Whether you're a new or experienced investor or just looking for a home to raise your family in, join us at Broadview Table Talks as you sit around the table with my friend, talk about the real estate and the ever-changing market in Toronto.